I was looking to add a Harley Sportster to my garage, and instead I wound up buying this bike again. Yes, I have purchased this bike twice now, and I'll share why. And no, it ain't because I absolutely love it or because I hate Harley, which I don't. I'm gonna cover what the bike is, what happened with the first one I bought, my unfiltered opinion on it, and why I bought another Honda instead of another Harley, and whether or not I recommend the 1100. The bike has some really unique aspects to it that can be hard for other bikes to compete with. I mean, granted the bike comes with some challenges as well, which I will cover in disgusting, however, tasteful detail. And if you think I don't like Harley, there's one sitting right behind me. I love that Evo. Now, over the last 20 years of building motorcycles and designing and manufacturing parts, I've learned a lot from hands-on experience. So what I'm about to share comes from having torn the bike apart and rebuilt it several times over, designing several performance parts for it just to squeeze out every bit of power possible and putting a lot of miles on it. The bike I bought is the Honda Shadow VT 1100. And yes, this is the second one I have purchased. So what happened with the first 1100 I bought and built? That was like, what, 5 years ago? Now you may remember, I had a big orange VT 1100 Honda Shadow Sabre, and I had some big plans for it, but then it probably fell off your radar, and here's why. Shortly after the bike was purchased, we released a max performance kit for it. But as I dove deeper into building out the other aspects of the bike that I wanted to change, like gas tank, fuel system, I started to see the dark underbelly of the Honda Shadow 1100. These challenges kind of pushed me to focus on continuing the restoration of my Honda 750 and my 600 and finish out my Harley Evo, which at the time were just much more interesting to me. Ultimately, I wound up selling the first 1100. Now that being said, here's my unfiltered opinion on the bike's design and features. Now, my unfiltered opinion here is that you should click the like button because it helps tell these god-awful algorithms this video is not total shite. In exchange for doing that, I will give you a free AI motorcycle. Here you go. You're welcome. Bleach your eyes vigorously, as if YouTube wasn't giving you enough of that absolute steaming garbage already. Now here's my real unfiltered opinion on the bike's design and features. Now there are some things I like about the bike and some things that bother me to no end. Let's start with what bothered me, okay? Get that out of the way. Just bear in mind, this is coming from the position of having to disassemble, reverse engineer, and monkey fudge with the bike literally hundreds of times before a product is even approved for prototype run. So there's a few engineering factors that make this bike a little more of a challenge to use for R&D. Now let's start with the frame. Why not? Now, the way the frame was designed is a little awkward. For example, the backbone at its widest point was over 10 inches wide, really prohibiting me from creating a smaller sporty style tank. I mean, honestly, any way you slice it, the tank has to be wide enough to cover that backbone. And if I do that and try to make the tank look at all smaller than the stock charcuterie board of a tank, you lose nearly all the 4-gallon capacity of the bike's stock tank. Now for 1100, you kind of want that capacity to go farther than the local carniceria. Additionally, the fact that some of the mounting locations and angles of the hardware are not in Honda's usual places, that was something to contend with, and it made things difficult. You know, honestly, now I'm thinking about it, the 1100 really seems like it had a different design team working on it than the other Honda Shadows. And if I'm being really honest, its engineering, mechanically and electrically, closely resemble Honda's other production bikes from the late 80s. I can only guess here, but maybe Honda had good success with the design and thought, well, let's not change a good thing, you know? They did make some changes though with like the frame to keep up with current cruiser styles. You can see a very serious difference in riding stance and style when you compare the 1985 1100 to a 2005 1100. But the power plant really didn't undergo many other major changes. All this to say, from an R&D standpoint, the bike is a challenge, but as a daily or a bike to bolt on some great performance parts, they're absolutely awesome for 3 main reasons, which I will get you. So then, if this bike was such a pain in the why'd you buy another one? You talk, I listen, unlike your wife. This is why you gotta get a dog. They listen to any damn thing. Now, in the past few months, I've asked you to give your opinions in the comments, here and on the forum, and boy, did you guys deliver. I have been inundated with requests about the 1100. There's been an obvious increase in the amount of riders choosing the 1100 to ride and customize. I've seen a major uptick in that. Oh, by the way, if you wanna join the conversation with me on the forum, there's a link in the description to join the forum for free. Anyways, it was painfully clear to me that you guys really wanted some more 1100 parts. So I hopped on Facebook Marketplace, found a butte, let's go take a look. So me and Ricky cruised down to Torrance and we met this guy, super cool, single owner, a vet who bought the bike off the lot, brand new in 97, and was hoping his son could ride with him. But due to an injury, the bike ended up sitting. However, the owner kept it in the garage in great shape, indoors, covered, on a trickle charger, rode it from time to time, really loved the bike and took care of it. He was gifted a large Harley, big old bagger, so he didn't really use the 1100 anymore. So we took it for a test ride, did a few inspection things on it, spit in our hands, took off a sock, spun 3 times, shook hands under a beaver moon, and the deal was sealed. And we rode her home. Now, do I recommend the Shadow 1100? First, let's cover a little bit of the bike's history so you get a better idea of why I have come to these conclusions that I have about this bike. Now, from its debut in '85 to its sundown year of '07, the 1100 is actually Honda's longest running cruiser line. However, the 750 Aero is quickly creeping up on its 22-year mark. If they make it through 26, it'll be neck and neck with the 1100. Now, a bike model doesn't last that long because it sucks, but here's the 4 reasons that they were discontinued. 1, outdated technology. The Shadow 1100 was still carbureted and an older platform. Now, while the cruiser market was moving toward modern fuel injection and more power, couldn't keep up. 2, shifting market demands. The early 2000s saw people going for much bigger engines and advanced technology in cruisers, a trend known, I will say, as the displacement race. That's not racist, by the way, which the 1100 just couldn't freaking keep pace with. Now, 3 was lower sales. Sales of the Shadow 1100 were dropping, especially with the introduction of the other models like the VTX 1300. 4, the introduction of new models. Instead of updating the 1100, Honda introduced new, more modern motorcycles to meet the evolving demands of the cruiser market. But are these reasons to avoid the 1100? No. That would be like avoiding buying a Harley Panhead just because they don't make it anymore. That's stupid. That's absolutely ridiculous. Now, here's why I bought another 1100 over another Harley. 1, reliability. The 1100 is a absolutely sturdy bike, a water-cooled engine and a shaft final drive. Maintenance is easier than a 600 or a chain drive Sporty. So if you own an 1100, hang on to it. It's a very reliable motorcycle. It's a great jump up from a 600 or 750 that will take you for miles, very smooth. And that brings me to my next point, which is comfort. More cushion for the pushing, you know? It is difficult to find that perfect bike that combines smooth, high-speed RPMs, a comfortable stance for both long distance or daily use, and is a great fit for a wide range of body sizes, and doesn't look stupid. Now, the 1100 has low cruising RPMs, puts the rider in a very neutral position, and can accommodate taller or shorter riders. Awesome. Next is power. Yes, the power. Regarding the power, I say it has power potential because I do think the bike could benefit with a few performance upgrades. Stock sucks any freaking way you cut it, man. It works, sure, and if you're only riding to the Elks Lodge with your old lady for bingo nights, then performance is probably not what you care about. But if you enjoy longer trips with smooth power on demand, plus a mean sound, well, you can definitely get a lot more power and fun out of the bike with a max performance kit. And if you're interested in that, check the link in the description. Now, next up is price. You can look out there, but it's very hard to get this amount of power and comfort for even close to the price. These bikes are selling used between $1,500 to $4,000, and I do expect prices will remain in this low area for quite a while due to the amount of 1100s that were in circulation. It's estimated that there were between 200 to 300,000 produced over its time in Honda's lineup. Why this bike instead of the Harley, right? Because I told you I was looking at one earlier. I was actually looking at getting a Sportster 1200 and doing some really nice stuff for a classic and very well-loved Harley, which I still might do. But here's what tipped the scales, my dude. I asked for your opinions and you were loud and clear in the comments. It was obvious I needed to finish what I started and deliver even more badass performance parts for the 1100. So thanks to you, we now have another 1100 in the shop with parts on the way. Now, if you want to learn more about building motorcycles, subscribe. See you next week. Enjoy the ride.